Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. Joining me from Glenn Clark Radio and 105.7 The Fan fame, he is Griffin Bass. Griffin, good morning. How are you today?
Feel pretty good, Paul. How are you doing? Appreciate you having me on, of course.
For sure. I'm doing pretty well. Happy to be back on doing another show after missing 2 of the last 3 weeks. But very glad to be back. Absolutely. It was my birthday last weekend, and it was that wasn't why I was off. I would have done the show anyway. But it was my brother-in-law's wedding. Beautiful wedding down in Cambridge. But my wife and I were both in the wedding, so we had to be down there, and there was just no way for me to shoot a show from Cambridge. So
well, happy belated birthday, and
thank you. The big 2-6.
Ooh,
the big 2-6.
Wow. Dang, I'm catching up to you.
No. Like that was maybe add 15 to that 41, but I play it off well.
Yeah, you do. I think everyone will believe you.
Today's show brought to you by Help My Gambling Problem. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. That's 1-800-GAMBLER or helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. Griffin, let's get into last night's game a little bit because, the Orioles, as has been the case this entire month, have really struggled to put bat to ball. Last night, they gathered just 4 hits. They scored just 1 run in losing a ball game 6-1. The team has scored 8 runs in their last 4 games. They are 12-6 in September, but they're averaging just 3.33 runs per game. And it certainly doesn't help things when your starting pitcher, Tomoyuki Sagano, goes out there and gives you 3 innings pitched, 87 pitches. Nearly that's 20. That's 29 pitches an inning.
Almost
3 innings pitched. It's insane. 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 home runs. Sagano 10-9 this year. Griffin 4.54 ERA. Are the Orioles saying thanks for your service? We'll see you later at this offseason?
I hope so. I mean, no offense to Tomo Sagano. I mean, he has been important to this team. Like, you got to find a way to get through 162 games, and he has at least showed up every 5th day. So you got to give him that. But it's looked like the way the last week has gone. It feels kind of similar to how April went, where they're not scoring, where they're really struggling against lefties. The difference is, they've had 6 games this month against the Pirates and the White Sox, as opposed to playoff teams back in April.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a fair point. Pardon me, as I forgot that we're on the air, but like I always scrunch up my bottles like this. I learned it from my father-in-law. And wasn't thinking about the fact that we're on the air, so I'm just scrunching up this water bottle. So my apologies about that. But yeah, so they're not scoring runs. They're struggling again against lefties. I mean, and you brought it up. They face a tough lefty and they look completely lost at the plate this month. Max Fried on Thursday night, 7 innings pitched. He allows 3 hits and strikes out 13.
I mean,
13 strikeouts.
One of the best performances of his career, right? Like, and it's just like that's kind of what we thought the Orioles were for us for a minute at this point. At some point during the early parts of the season, they looked a little better. They looked a lot more competitive in June, July, August, and they're regressing back to where they were, which is definitely concerning because it felt like they were building something. It felt like when all these guys came up in August, there was some legitimate excitement seeing Basayo, seeing Beavers, seeing Jeremiah Jackson even. It was like, wow, there could be something here, and you assume Gunnar can get right. I think we still have to assume Adley can get right, but and assume Westberg can be healthy, and then you got a real baseball team next year.
Well, and then speaking of Jordan Westberg, I don't know if he came back too soon. I don't know what the point is in coming back at this point. Yeah, I mean, like we all want to see him play, and we'd like to see him finish the season strong to build the whole team finish the season strong to build build momentum going into the off season. But Westberg 0 for 4 last night with 3 strikeouts. He's just 1 for 20 since his return from the IL with 10 strikeouts and 2 walks. And it's just a microcosm of what the offense has kind of been looking like. I mean, Gunnar went through a terrible stretch there this month, and he hasn't homered in what feels like a year. The power is sapped from this team. I mean, when your team leader in home runs is a 21-year-old Jackson Holiday with 17. And you've got guys in your lineup. You've got Mountcastle, who's hit 30 homers in the season. You've got Gunnar, who's hit 37 homers in the season. And Westberg, who, if he's healthy, that's a 25 to 30 homer guy. And Kalser, who hit 24 last year. O'Neill, who's hit 30 home runs multiple times in a season. Mayo, who's got a lot of pop in his bat. And your team leader has 17 home runs. There's an issue there. We're going to get into all of that here a little bit later in the show. But really and what I've noticed is, you mentioned that they played 3 against the Pirates and 3 against the White Sox. And, they did what they're supposed to do. They swept both of those series, right? And so that's what you're supposed to do. But then they play Toronto in between the Pirates and the White Sox series, and they got completely embarrassed.
Also did what they're supposed to do. It feels like.
Yeah, for sure. And the Orioles have played Toronto tough all year.
Yeah, they have. And like Saturday night, it's obviously the Orioles are eliminated. They weren't eliminated at that point, but that Saturday night game, it's a game that they should win. And you got Yunier Cano coming in and squandering that one, and it's just. It's not what they haven't looked all too competitive. Obviously, they won Friday night against the Yankees, so that was good. But they haven't looked quite competitive. You want to see them at least be competitive with these AL East teams, and it doesn't seem that way.
Well, and they win Friday night, but what was that? A 3-1 win?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like they're not scoring runs. It was Trevor Rogers was pitching. That's why.
I'm sorry. It was 4-2. They won 4-2. But I mean, you look at 2 of the wins against the White Sox, 4-1, 3-1. You look at
they got the bare minimum that they needed to against the Pirates. What they walked off each game, it felt like it was
right. And the against the Pirates, it was 3-2, 2-1, 3-2. Their wins against San Diego, 4-3. They won 2-1 and 4-3 against the Dodgers. I mean, they've scored more than 6 runs in a game. Just 3 times this entire month. Just 3 times this entire month. They've scored 3 runs or less. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. 9 times in 18 games they've scored 3 runs or less. They've been shut out. They were this close to getting shut out for the 16th time last night. They've been shut out 15 times this season. That's too much. And there's too much talent on this ball club. And you look at Tony Manzolino, he's 58 and 54 since taking over for the team. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a buffoon, but some of the stuff that comes out of his mouth would lead one to think that he's just terrible when it comes to public speaking, right?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Definitely early on, it definitely sounded like, what is this guy talking about? He seems like a really nice guy, so I don't want to bury him too much. But I am definitely with you where it sounds like you're very adamant that you do not want him to be the full-time manager next year.
He can't be. He can't be. And that's the thing. If all things were equal, I just don't think that he has to want the job first and foremost. And when he took over, maybe he would want it now, but when he took over for Brandon Hyde, he very clearly did not want to be the manager.
Yeah. It looked and sounded way in over his head.
And he said he had no ideas about becoming the big league manager of the ball club. He was happy coaching third base. Mm-hmm. My opinion is that they went to him and they were like, hey, you're the only person here that has extensive, that's been on a big league coaching staff for an extended period of time, and you have minor league managing experience. Because you have Buck Britton, and you have Robinson Chirinos, and many in the baseball world believe both of those guys will be managers at some point. Buck Britton has extensive minor league managing history and a very good history at that, winning a couple of different championships with a lot of the guys that are on this roster. Chirinos, we all know that catchers make great managers, except for Brandon Hyde. And so
he won 100 games at one time.
Yeah, he didn't. The team did. But we don't need to get into that. He's long gone. But so, and it's widely believed that both of these guys are going to be managers, but neither one of them had big league coaching experience. Manzolino did, and I firmly believe they went to him and they were like, hey, we need you to just lead this team the rest of the way. I don't think that they said you're not going to be in the running. I don't think they can tell him he's not going to be in the running for manager this year, but he'll get an interview just to say, hey, thanks, and that's just kind of what you do. But he's not going to be the manager of the ball club next year. I heard rumblings that Buck Britton might be in line to get that job. If Michael Isaac's, of course, this was Tony Penty said this when he was on 105.7 The Fan a few weeks back. I don't know how accurate that is. I don't know that you want to give up. Not give up, but I don't know that you want to make the next manager somebody that is
Like
also a first-time manager, just like Brandon Hyde was. I don't know how much you want to do that.
Right. So does that rule out the like the Ryan Flaherty something? Like, I know that's obviously one that makes people feel warm and fuzzy here in town, but I wouldn't be against it. But yeah, same deal. It's like it's a first-time manager. Like, that's like, I feel like Britton and Flaherty kind of fall in that, Ryan Flaherty fall in that same bucket.
Well,
where
I
like,
think
I don't hate it, but also like it doesn't seem you're trying to win now, right? So like, why?
Yeah. And it's weird. It's because, like, does anybody actually know the baseball? Anybody within the fan base know the baseball acumen when it comes to coaching and managing of Ryan Flaherty, or are we just believing what people have said?
Well,
right?
We see that he's been on these good teams benches, and so it's no, I don't think anyone has any actual inside info. It's just like, yeah, this guy was an Oriole, and we want. It's like when when Kevin Willard was about to leave Maryland, everybody was like, well, let's just get Steve Blake in here to coach the Sweet 16 game. We want a Maryland man, we want an Oriole man to manage the team.
Right. It's just like people want Adam Jones to be the manager of the team. Adam Jones has never coached really at the big league level. He's coached for some World Baseball Classic teams, and he's I think he was a hitting coach for Team Spain something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know that it would be terrible for Adam Jones to be the manager. I think that it would get a lot of publicity, and a lot of people in Baltimore would love it. But we need to stop romanticizing. What's that?
Why not Cal Ripken Jr.? Why not
right. And I've actually been reading Cal's biography they wrote during the 97 season.
He does not want to
manage, right? Yeah, he was like, he basically said he doesn't want to manage back then, which I never knew. But, it's like, I would love it if they brought in Nick Markakis to be the hitting coach. And a lot of people would love it if they brought in Zach Britton to be a bullpen coach, but at the end of the day, have these guys shown any interest in coaching, right, in managing? Ryan Flaherty certainly has, but like, all we know about Ryan Flaherty is that Buck Showalter loved him. He was a utility guy who had some pop. Other than that, not a great hitter. And he also told Aroldis Chapman to bring it on, MFer, during an at-bat against the Yankees before striking out, right? So
we love that.
Yeah, I love the intensity, but not when you can't back it up. So what do we really know about Ryan Flaherty other than those things? We only know what people, Ryan Flaherty's going to be a great manager. Well, you don't know that. You just know that because somebody said it. Yeah.
Well, but it does seem like he's been on benches with Mike Schilt in San Diego, right? And then he's been on the bench with Craig Counsell this year, and the Cubs are going to win 90 games, and they're going to be a playoff team. So
for sure.
I think there's more to Flaherty than I think there's a little more to Flaherty than just being like, let's get Nick Markakis off the street, or let's get Zach Britton off the street.
Oh, absolutely. And I didn't mean to make
sure. Okay. Yeah. I see
to make that point. That wasn't the point that I was trying to make. And he has been on a big. He has been on a big league bench for a long time, and he's had success with those ball clubs. Brandon Hyde had success. He won a Double-A championship in the Marlins organization as a manager. He was on the Cubs bench when they won the World Series in 2016. But there were a lot of things that I saw from Brandon Hyde that I just hated. That I absolutely hated, basically from 2022 through him getting fired this year. That I thought he should have been fired 2-3 years ago, let alone earlier this year. And so
I was confused by why even fire him in May of this year. Like, what was like?
At that point, I don't think that they had any designs on doing it until you get to a point where you've lost games 20-2, or what was it, 22-1 or something like that against.
I was at the Reds game. That was awful.
Yeah, on Easter, I can't imagine you stayed the whole time.
No.
I mean, Austin Wins. Is that his, yeah, Austin Wins.
Austin Wins.
Went
I'm
6 for 6.
Radio, and they're like, Austin Wins with his 6th hit. I'm like, what? I don't think Austin Wins had 6 hits as an Oriole.
Yeah, right. And then you lose a game to the Red Sox 19-5. You lose a game to the Nationals where you're leading like 3-1 in the 9th inning, and just a complete debacle there. I think you allowed 2 runs to score on a pass ball or something like that, or on a sac fly, something ridiculous. It was too much. It was a cavalcade of errors. Too much went wrong, and it was like, you can't just sit here with this team 18 games below 500 and do nothing. Something's got to happen.
The problem I had with it is that when we finally heard Elias and Rubenstein speak about it, is that they were going, well, we've dealt with a lot of injuries, and it's been injuries, and once we get some guys healthy, it's going to be better. And that was true, but if that was the case, then why are we blaming the manager for this bad start to the year when it seems like at least publicly they're saying that we're blaming the injuries, and so that was what I just didn't understand with that whole process, because
sure
I'm not as anti Brandon Hyde as you have been, but I mean, yeah, there's definitely been some we don't need to keep talking about Brandon Hyde, but you know, there's
but that's the thing when you have a team that many believe is a playoff contender, some believe is a World Series contender. They didn't do enough in the offseason for me to ever believe they were a World Series contender this year. But when you have a team that has that much talent, and they went basically the entire second half of the season last year with scoring 3.5 runs a game, and then they scored 1 run in 18 innings in the postseason. You've won 0 playoff games the last 10 years, 11 years now. When something like that is happening, you've got to have consequences. You can't just sit there and yeah, maybe it wasn't all Brandon Hyde's fault. The players are certainly to blame. They didn't do enough this year. You know, if you look, there's regression across the board for everybody in this Orioles lineup that you expected to take that net. I mean, Gunnar Henderson went from being, you know, potentially a 12-win player last year in the first half of the season and hitting 37 home runs last year to having 16 this year. Like, and defensively, he's gotten way better, but he even said himself, we heard about on the broadcast the other day, he said he felt like he's had his A swing in like 2 games this year. And to me, that shows it can't be just Brandon Hyde, because I don't believe for a second that Brandon Hyde built his coaching staff. I don't believe it, because why would he get rid of Freddie Gonzalez, who's a buddy of his? Why would he bring up a Buck Britton and bring back a Robinson Chirinos, who have designs of becoming big league managers at some point, and fans are clamoring for guys like that? Why would he put them on his coaching staff? I don't believe for a second that Hyde built his coaching staff this year.
And that probably leads into what this next discussion should be: is what are they going to do with GM? What are they going to do, and how does that impact whoever the next manager is? So we can talk about Flaherty all we want. We can talk about the Skip Schumachers and whoever, whether that's real or not. Like, is this a job that anybody wants? Because Mike Elias is at least from the outside looking in, seems like the king of the castle, and I'm not sure who gets to overrule him on anything, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that, well, yeah, you know what? Let me pay a bill for us here real quick before we get into that. Today's show is brought to you by PressBox's Project Game Day, which is back tomorrow night, with your host Glenn Clark and Rita Hubbard, special guest Ken Zales and Andrew Setka, and former Ravens linebacker Tyus Bowser. You're going to be on there?
I'll be on there. Yeah, I'm always.
And Griffin Bass will be on there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then linebacker Tyus Bowser following the Ravens-Lions Monday night matchup. You can watch the show on Facebook, YouTube, or at PressBoxOnline.com/GameDay. Project Game Day is brought to you by 1-800-GAMBLER, Costa Sin, Game Day Men's Health, and Live Casino and Hotel. Make sure you check it out. Always a good time. I love the back and forth when, like, because Andrew Setka, maybe I'm wrong about this, but every time I've tuned in, it feels like he is going back and forth with somebody. On that show.
Last year it was Femi Ayanbadejo, and Femi was usually yelling at Stecca or KZ, and then same thing this year. He'll try to go, or Tyus will come out, and Tyus is a very quiet guy, but he'll still go after KZ and Stecca. So it's a great program. It's a great program. Hopefully everyone sticks around and stays up. Hopefully, we got a good game to talk about after tomorrow night.
Absolutely.
All these injuries that the Ravens have. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we'll talk a little Ravens before we close out the show today. To get into that, because it just seems like in Baltimore we have zero luck with our teams recently when it comes to injuries and underperformance and regression. And talking about the regression of the Baltimore Orioles quietly in the offseason, and I don't know if it happened in the offseason or if it's something that they're saying happened in the offseason. Mike Elias was promoted to president of baseball operations. And I remember that Dan Duquette, I believe he was the vice president of baseball operations when he was here. It wasn't actually the GM, he was vice president of baseball operations. So maybe Elias did receive that promotion, and the idea was, I'm going to have this title, but still be the main general manager. And then when things went sideways and he has more responsibilities now, it's like, okay, we got to get somebody else in here. And maybe he and Rubenstein have this agreement that's like, you know what, Rubenstein's like, I want you to stick around. I believe you have value to our ball club, and I don't want to lose you, but we need to get somebody in here to help you. Because do you really honestly believe that with his promotion to president of baseball operations, he then had more put on his plate, or do you think he's been doing the same job that he's always been doing?
I don't know. That's a good question. I would like to think that there's more on his plate and that they're admitting, we need a little more help here, and I think that would only be a good thing. Just given how the last year and a half, how poorly the ball club has looked over the last year and a half on the field. I would hope that's something. It just doesn't seem like that's something that Elias would want to admit, and so when we first saw the report, my feeling was that this is just nothing more than a title change, and that it's still going to be Elias. They want to hire a GM, but maybe that'll just be like a higher title for a scout or somebody who maybe only focuses on free agents, I guess. But again, I don't see how Mike Elias would cede much power to a GM. Like, what would this GM? What freedom would this GM have? Does that mean he gets to make all the draft picks? But I don't think that's what we want, because the one thing that we can say Elias has done a really good job is I think he's drafted pretty well outside of pitching, but he's drafted position players really well. So I really don't know, and that's the other thing. So Glenn and Stan brought this up on Glenn Clark Radio this week, I think Thursday or Friday, and does it seem odd to you at all that the Orioles haven't made any official statement about this promotion? Like, we saw Brittany Giroli and Ken Rosenthal reported it, and they're obviously not making it up. Everyone respects Giroli and Rosenthal quite a lot, so they're obviously not making up. And Rosenthal's got a lot of ties to Baltimore, so he of course would know. But does it seem odd that the Orioles haven't spoke publicly about this at all?
I did think about that, and the only thing that comes to mind with that is maybe it's something that they announce in the offseason.
Right.
Because if they're gonna make
so what does it matter? Yeah.
And I think that gives credence to the thought that the plan was just to make it a title change for Mike Elias, but still have him do the duties of the general manager. And then when things obviously not kind of, they absolutely 100% went sideways, basically from the Grayson Rodriguez injury in spring training through the end of the season now, they were like, all right, we got to do something. I think that they want to keep Mike Elias around, and that would explain why he keeps getting votes of confidence from Rubenstein, from Cal Ripken during the season, right? Like he's going to be here. He's our president of baseball operations. He's not going anywhere. But it's like, you know what, though? We need to make good here. We need to get back on track. Let's bring in a GM where their sole duty is to spend the money and get players onto this ball club. Let's have them hire a manager. And I think that's what's going to happen. You hire a GM. You have that GM hire the manager. The manager brings in a coaching staff. Because if you're going to get a manager that has any experience, it's worth his salt whatsoever, whether it's a Skip Schumacher or a David Ross or a Buck Showalter or a Bruce Bochy, or who I've heard Bruce Bochy's name mentioned by people, but I don't. I mean,
I think managing. I think he would stay in Texas, right? Like that.
Yeah, exactly. But if you get any of these guys who are worth their salt, they're not coming here to be told what
the lineup's going to look like. Yeah, to be told who's on their coaching staff. Right.
Exactly. They're going to bring in their own guys. I am a firm believer. You can't look at this roster and say, well, Jackson Holiday just hasn't progressed the way we expected him to. And Gunnar Henderson hasn't taken a step forward like we wanted him to. And Colton Cowser hasn't built off of his 2024 Rookie of the Year runner-up campaign. And Ryan Mountcastle's power hasn't come back. And Tyler O'Neill hasn't been able to stay on the field. And, you name it, it hasn't happened. At what point do you say, well, Cody Ashe never had success as a big league hitter. Sherman Johnson has never been a big league coach, and Tommy Joseph was the assistant hitting coach for the worst offense in baseball for the first 5 months of the year in 2024. And you say, maybe these guys aren't that great at their jobs.
And the Mariners immediately get rid of him, and now Cal Raleigh's setting records left and right.
Right, and the Mariners' offense started to take off as soon as Edgar Martinez came back to that organization and started helping out with the hitting coaches, right? And that's one of the greatest hitters of all time, right? So you look at who they have in place, you see regression all across the board. Yeah, the Orioles have had a ton of guys on IL this year. A ton of freak injuries this year. And there's something to be said about the strength and conditioning team, although you're not going to have – Cowser got a concussion running into a wall. Westberg jammed his finger on 2 separate occasions, hurt his back sleeping on a sofa bed, twisted his ankle running around the base paths. Some of these injuries have just been freak things that happen because you're playing the game hard and in a physical manner. But other things that are happening, like soft tissue issues, pitchers' elbows getting sore, forearms getting tight, Felix Bautista completely tearing both his rotator cuff and his labrum. By the way, his career is probably over, in my opinion. He's never thrown 103 miles an hour ever again. You look at these things, and you have to look across the board at the strength and conditioning coach, at the hitting coaches, at the infield coaches. Gunnar Henderson is the only player that has visibly improved defensively on this ball club. The fundamentals with this team, day in and day out, are absolutely atrocious. And you can't convince me that if you have a manager in place like a Buck Showalter that's going to fly, because he'll tell you if you can hit but you can't field, you can't play for. If unless you're a full-time DH. So they've got to make wholesale changes across the board with this ball club. It starts with the GM. And I think we'll see a domino effect. I think you'll see a GM in place pretty much as soon as the regular season ends. I think you'll see there's going to be guys that they might want to interview, and they can't interview guys. I think they can talk to guys, but I think they can't offer a job to anybody until after the World Series. So you're going to see a GM in place.
And that was like the reason this story, I think, broke last week, is because they started looking finally, and it was somebody with the White Sox that they wanted to interview.
I think it was the guy rejected them.
Right.
I think there was somebody. I think I heard somebody with the Cubs too, but don't quote me on that. I don't want to be incorrect, but I think I heard something about somebody with the Cubs.
And that goes back to what we were just saying, though. If we're trying to fill this position, we're going to the White Sox again. Like, this is a premier. We're not going to the Dodgers or something. This is the White Sox, who have been one of the worst teams in baseball the last decade. Well, I guess they had a playoff appearance in there.
And the team that you're almost copying.
Yeah,
as far as
you have this young core that everyone's excited about, and you win a bunch of games one year, and then all of a sudden you fall off a cliff. Yeah, it's
right. Yeah. And so and it makes you wonder, how many people have they interviewed? How many people have turned them down? And so then what is happening in these interviews is Mike Elias saying, well, we're still going to want to have a say in who you bring in, this, that, and the other. Are they not willing to give the GM free reign to make the moves that he or she sees fit? Mm-hmm. And that's what you really have to question, because if there's somebody, and if somebody is in line to become the next GM, I can't imagine that they're talking to people that are waiting in the wings to take over where they are. Like, mm-hmm. It would be like a team. And you look at the Ravens, Eric DaCosta was probably interviewed by a bunch of different teams to become their GM, but he knew that he had gold sitting in his lap. He knew that as soon as Ozzie Newsome retired, he was taking over for the Baltimore Ravens as the general manager. So I don't know, so I guess maybe that doesn't stop you from interviewing candidates, but
right. So
it might not help things.
Would that scare you if the Orioles go that route as well? Like they have Sig Mejdal, they have Matt Blood. Like what if they end up promoting within and that becomes your next general manager, is Sig or it's Matt Blood? And then not a whole lot. Then we wouldn't be able to assume a whole lot would change, right? At that point,
it would be very tone deaf.
Yeah.
To do something like that, and I also don't think that Sig wants to be a general manager.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I think I've heard like that he's just happy doing the job that he does. He's more about the analytics of baseball and not, running a ball club. So I don't think that.
Again, we don't know if these titles could mean anything. Like maybe Mike Elias as PBO would still, he would still run the ball club, and Sig would just be more. Again, he would have more of a role in free agent signings or whatever it is.
But I don't think Sig has any desire to do that.
Right.
To be the guy making decisions on the free agents to sign. I think that when they say that they're looking for a GM, I think it's somebody coming from outside the organization. I believe that a manager is somebody coming from outside the organization. And I'm telling you, man, like, and look, this team has been.
Do you have any names that you're? Yeah,
for a GM.
Yeah,
I have no idea who's out there.
So Glenn brought up, and I mean it's hard not to like this. Does this open up something up for Kim Ng? And that's how you try to get
That's
in.
The only name that I know of.
Yeah,
and I'll be honest, I don't know much about her.
Yeah, stand throughout Mike Rizzo since he got fired by the Nats earlier. But that doesn't Mike Rizzo seems like a guy that I think would want to run the team, and I'm not sure there'd be a very. I don't know if Mike Elias and Mike Rizzo could 50-50 split. Running a ball club.
Well, and that's the thing is if keeping Mike Elias, and this team has been so tone deaf when it comes to things about this season. You know what I mean? Some of the social media posts that we see right after something terrible happens with the ball club, the team's playing really poorly. Hey, check out what we're gonna do with the stadium right after we raise.
The guest splasher is this week.
The guest splasher and guy who threw out the first pitch was that morbidly obese Mets fan. Like how does he get to? And I'm not fat shaming. It's just that's the only way I can describe him.
I know. He's got a cult following, but I don't know how that.
What does that have to do with the Baltimore Orioles? Why is that guy here? I don't care who the guest splasher is. Like Griffin, you could do it every day, and I think that would be awesome for you. And I don't care as long as they're winning baseball games.
Right.
You know what I mean? But like when you're losing baseball games and you're bringing in people who have nothing to do with your organization, like it's completely tone deaf. And so, which is what makes me nervous because you would have to be completely tone deaf for Mike Elias to not give the general manager the power to do what he or she needs to do to make this ball club better. The same thing with the manager. It's the whole trickle down effect, and you would also have to be completely tone deaf to keep Tony Mansolino on this coaching staff, right? I don't believe that he's going to be the manager. Some people think he might stick around in a coaching capacity. You can't. You can't because that undermines the authority of the manager if something starts to go wrong. You just can't. There's this whole trickle down effect, and I think that they have to loosen the reins as far as Mike Elias running the ball club and helping write out the lineups. The lineups should be made by the manager and the manager alone.
So how do we get to that point where Mike Elias has less meddling in on the everyday operations?
Well,
does ownership need this? Do we need more voice from the ownership? It seems like I think we can give Rubenstein a little bit of credit, for trying to let it be and be what it is. I'm not sure. I don't think he knows what he's doing either. So does that mean, Michael Arrighetti needs to kind of step in more and say, Elias, back off?
Well, it's just like I said with Ryan Flaherty. Mm-hmm. We only see what we see and know what we're told. The Orioles have 3 billionaires in their ownership group, and then they've got Cal Ripken and Grant Hill, and like you've got Michael Bloomberg, and you've got Arrighetti, and you've got David Rubenstein. I think he's the third richest owner in baseball and Rubenstein, you don't become that successful without knowing how to run a business and by, telling everybody your plans ahead of time. Let's keep in mind that Rubenstein did not gain full control of this ball club until last August. Last August. He's had one off season. The team had gone from 83 wins to 101 wins, and because of injuries to their pitching staff, they dropped back down to 91 wins last year, but they made the playoffs 2 years in a row for the first time since 96 and 97. So when something like that happens, and you're a brand new owner who's never run a ball club before, you're going to give you're going to let go of things and let your baseball people do the baseball things and make the baseball decisions. You're gonna trust them and you're gonna delegate. He let that happen. Things went off the rails very quickly for this ball club. He let Mike Elias have the trade deadline and the draft, which, look, he did a great job. Like, if you look at the trades that were made, the trades were phenomenal. Yeah. The draft was absolutely phenomenal. He did great things. I don't think anybody can be upset about what Mike Elias did with the draft and with the trade deadline. So now you get to this offseason. If they don't go out and spend serious money this offseason and bring in serious players, you can't look at Mike Elias and this team. What was that?
Or what? Flip some of these prospects that they just netted, right? They need to make a serious acquisition, a serious splash acquisition this offseason.
More than just one, more than just one. You've got, because you've got to build your entire bullpen. You've got to sign at least 2 legitimate starting pitchers, in my opinion. We'll get into that here in a second. And you've got to bring in, if they fail to do this again for like the 5th straight offseason, it's going to blow my mind, because I've been screaming about it since the end of 2021. You need a legitimate middle-of-the-order presence on your team. Not Tyler O'Neill, not Gary Sanchez, not a Ryan O'Hearn or a Ryan Mountcastle. You've got to get a legitimate bat in the middle of your order. I don't know how you're going to do it, because Kyle Schwarber ain't leaving Philly. Kyle Tucker's going to cost you $500 million. He just is.
How old is Kyle Tucker?
27, 28. And then Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso makes the most sense, but
28.
He seems like one of those guys who's like maybe got a few years left where he can hit 45 home runs, and all of a sudden you see him hitting 230 with 20 home runs. That's what Pete Alonso seems like to me. Yeah. Plus, you've got, Kobe Mayo and Samuel Basayo and Adley Rutschman and Ryan Mountcastle and Tyler O'Neill. You've only got so many guys to play that are either a full-time DH or a first base DH type. And I mentioned Tyler O'Neill because I think he should DH more than he plays the field. But so
it's
So
he got a decent arm, but he can't stay healthy when he's in the field. So
he can't stay healthy, period. But to me, it's mind numbing that how much they put him in the outfield after he comes back from these injuries. But staying on track here a little bit, just the idea of bringing in one of these bats. I don't know how you're going to do it, but you have to. You absolutely have to build this roster to put them around the players that are already here, because there's no excuse for Gunnar Henderson only hitting 16 home runs this year, except for the fact that he has been protected all season by Ryan O'Hearn and Ryan Mountcastle, or Adley Rutschman.
Yeah, and they had Anthony Santander last year,
Yeah,
and that was they did nothing to replace. I guess they thought Tyler O'Neill would replace it. They did nothing to replace 44, 45 home runs hit by your
right.
forwarder. Like that.
And to their credit, you look at Anthony Santander this year.
Right. Yeah.
He's done nothing, and he got hurt immediately up there. But Zach Moore called that because he went up there to play on turf, and there's a guy who had an injury history earlier in his career like that, and he wasn't the most fleet of foot anyway. That wasn't going to be a good situation for him, but he got his bag. So they have to, and you can't have your 3-hitter, or your 4-hitter hitting 240. These have to be. There has to be a guy that hits 270, 280. We'll say 260 to 280 that can drive the ball out of the ballpark to all fields 30 to 40 times a year. That's who you need hitting fourth for this ball club. So look, they have a lot of work to do in the offseason. But like I said, it starts with the first move as a GM. That GM is going to bring in their own manager. That manager is going to bring in their own coaching staff, and then the GM is going to get to work on revamping this roster and supplementing it to really build around the current core that you have, because the core that you have, Griffin, is good. I mean, when Jordan Westburg is healthy, he is arguably the best hitter on the team, the best all-around hitter on the team, not named Gunnar Henderson. Jackson Holiday, he's going to start taking – it's so funny because I mentioned on this show about a month ago, I said, look at Adley Rutschman and Jackson Holiday, and look at how much they walked prior to getting to the major leagues. And now they both are just not walking at all. And they almost immediately – and I had nothing to do with it, but it's just so funny that you like say these things and then things start to change. Jackson Holiday, I think the game just slowed down for him and he started taking more pitches. And now he's walked more in the last 5 weeks than he walked the entire season prior to that. And I think that he's going to take that next step forward because he's only 21 years old. Basayo's a beast. Beavers looks like the real deal.
Beavers look so good. Yeah. He might be outside of Rogers, might be the best story of the team.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know that the talent is there. You know that Kyle Bradish is going to be held, knock on wood, it should be healthy next year. You know that you've got Trevor Rogers under team control for next year. So let me ask you this. I just realized I haven't done like any reads. So let me ask you a question, and then I'll do a read, and then you tell me what you think. Do you think that any of these starting pitchers that can really help with this ball club, with like Trevor Rogers or and Kyle Bradish, is there an extension in their future this offseason? Before you answer that, I want to remind everybody that today's show is brought to you by Glenn Clark Radio. If you missed anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including Ravens linebacker Jake Hummel after his huge block punt, Super Bowl 35 champion Matt Stover, and play-by-play legend Kevin Harlan, you can find those and more in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. And as always, watch it or listen to GCR and our good friend Griffin Bass here every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. at PressBoxOnline.com/radio or right here on Pressbox's Facebook and YouTube pages. Trevor Rogers has 1 year of team control left after this season. Kyle Bradish is, I believe, arbitration eligible this coming year. Do you lock up either of those guys?
Rogers, yes. I mean, he has been unbelievable. It's really insane, I guess, how this trade is played out, where it went from, oh my God, like this looks like the worst trade maybe in baseball history. That's totally hyperbole. But, you know, Kyle Stowers is playing like an MVP, and then Kyle Stowers gets hurt, and unfortunately for him and the Marlins, they kind of fall off. But Rogers comes back, and we're just kind of, I feel like we were waiting for the shoe to drop, and now it's like, is this guy really just a 1.4 ERA guy? Like, is that just what he is? So yes, Trevor Rogers, 1,000%. I would love to. I wish they would have done it like the beginning of August, you know, before, but now he's just continued to raise the price every time he takes the mound. But yes, Trevor Rogers seems like a no-brainer almost.
Look at that though. He does seem like he's raising that price tag with each dominant start, but it's also been 17 starts, and you also have him coming out and saying how grateful he is to the Orioles organization for helping him turn his career around. So not that I think that he's going to give them a hometown discount,
right?
But he might be more inclined to sign with you than he would with somebody else. So maybe I don't think you're going to have to overpay for him. Maybe you pay him what he's worth, and he doesn't have to go talk to anybody else.
What do you think that is? About 20 a year? Like, is like 5 years, $100 million? Is that too much? Is that too little?
It would be the first time this team has ever given a pitcher 5 years in the history of the franchise that they've ever given him a pitcher 5 years. He's 27 years old.
Yeah. 20 scouts after actually.
Yeah, 27 years old. But again, are you giving that kind of a contract to a guy who has only done this for 17 starts?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you give him 3 years with a higher average annual value with an opt-out, right? So maybe you give him 3 years at
that would be definitely the more Elias thing to do, I think.
Like 3 years at $75 million, with a player option after the first year. And if he goes out next year and he gives you 30 starts, pitching to a 2.5 ERA, then he opts out. And he's like, hey, let's go back to the negotiating table. I've done this now for a year and a half. Like, this is who I am. 17 starts. And it's crazy because he's made 17 starts. He's probably got one start left, maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
He's,
I guess next week in New York. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got one start left on the season. So he's going to have 18 starts this year. And yet he's going to get Cy Young votes. Right? He leads the American League in wins above average amongst starting pitchers. That includes Garrett Crochet and Tarek Skubal. He leads the American League in that in just 17 starts. It's crazy. With an 18 start season, he's going to get Cy Young votes. He's not going to win. I think it's going to be Skubal again.
I mean, yeah.
And he shouldn't, but he's going to get votes. And then you have Kyle Bradish that's going to be on in your rotation next year, who should have been a Cy Young finalist in 2023. He absolutely should have been a Cy Young finalist. He had better numbers in every category except for strikeouts to Kevin Gausman, and he was fourth, and Gausman was third in Cy Young voting. But you have those two guys at the top of your rotation. Imagine locking both of those guys up. And having a Kyle, you have two aces at the top of your rotation for the next 3 to 5 years. And then all you have to do after that is let's figure out the rest of their rotation, right? You've got Grayson Rodriguez coming back. You can't count on him for anything. Does he end up in the back end of your bullpen? What do you have with Dean Kramer?
What about Tyler Wells? Does Tyler Wells end up being a bullpen guy? He's looked great, so I don't know.
He's looked great, and every time that he's been a starter,
game, but yeah,
and that's what he does. But they're usually like solo shots. He's not giving up many multi-run home runs. But you look at it, he was a starter in 2022, and he led the American League in ERA the first half. I'm sorry, 2023. Starter in 2023, he led the American League in ERA the first half of the season. He got a little tired, got hurt for 6 weeks.
What's the most? What is it, like 100 innings? Is that the most that he's still thrown in a major league season?
Yeah, it's not more than that, because I know in 2022 he was a starter, and he would be at he's gonna go 3-4 innings, but then he'd be through 3 or 4 innings at 32 pitches, and they're like, all right, so he goes 6 innings, he throws 70 pitches, and then he got hurt for 6 weeks. Then he came back and wasn't quite the same after that. 2023 was really good in the first half, kind of fell off the second half, then came back after being demoted, and he becomes a back end reliever, and he's dominant. You look at a Tyler Wells. I think that if you want to keep him healthy, he's never pitched a full season where he was a starter that entire season and not been hurt.
Yeah.
So I think if you want to keep him healthy, he's got to go to your bullpen. What's his career high for innings?
118 in 2023, but he made 20 starts, and then they sent him to the bullpen. So I think it was right around that 100 inning mark, and then he had 5 appearances out of the bullpen in 2023.
Yeah, and he was really good out of the bullpen. He was really good out of the bullpen in 2022. And so I just think that if you want to keep him healthy,
do you think he could gain a mile per hour if he comes out of the bullpen? I mean, he's a big, tall guy, and knowing that he doesn't have to, wear out there for 6, 7 innings, 5, 6, 7 innings at a time.
Well,
he come out with a little more juice? Yeah.
We've seen him touch 98 coming out of the bullpen. You know what I mean? So you look at, and he's got a multitude of pitches. So, and he's huge. He's 6'8". The only thing is that these bigger dudes have so much trouble holding runners. They have so much trouble holding runners. Bautista, Cano, Wells, they struggle so badly holding runners because it's just such a big frame with so many moving parts to deliver that pitch.
It's the one thing Cade Povich does well.
Yeah, well, and he's also a lefty. So and I look at guys like Cade Povich and Brandon Young. I don't think those guys have any business being in your rotation next year. I just don't. And then I think that if you let a Brandon Young throw 97 miles an hour for an inning or two, you let a Cade Povich throw 97, 98 for an inning, because all these guys can get their fastballs up there.
Yeah, and they can get swing and miss. Cade Povich, Cade Povich's curveball is working, it's like, damn, this guy.
And you look at it, he is always good his first 3 innings. Then as soon as he starts to face the lineup a second time is when he starts to give it up, and he can never get through the 6th inning without giving up something. So I think that if you have him in a long relief uh, role with the ball club, you have Tyler Wells as a back end option. You have Brandon Young as a bullpen option. You've got, Kyle Bradish and Trevor Rogers at the top of your rotation. I think you bring back Zach Eflin. I don't think you offer him the qualifying offer because he's going to accept that if you do, and you're going to pay him $22 million. And he's not. Yeah, he's not. He ain't that guy. But if you sign him for, maybe you give him 1 year with an option. You bring, and Eflin loves it here. He lived in that house during spring training with guys like Adley and Kalser and Gunnar and all those guys. Like, he lived in the house and would go fishing with them.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is, I guess, Tampa, like, because he's from Florida. So I think that would be like, going back to Tampa would be the only other thing that would, I think, make logical sense.
He has said though that he wants to be here.
Yeah,
he has said that he wants to be here. So if he wants to be here and you want him here, you can get something done. So then now you're looking at, and then Dean Kramer, like.
Dang. Yeah.
Sometimes I love Dean and sometimes I hate Dean. And we talked about on this show, Zach and I have talked about this show a lot. Dean seems to do really, really great against the best teams. And then he seems to be, when he faces these terrible ball clubs, he's like, if it almost feels like he thinks he doesn't have to do as much, doesn't have to put as much aggression and passion into it, and then he gets lit up. Dean can go out there and he can give you 7 innings of 3-hit ball. Or Dean will go out there and he'll give up 4 runs in the 3rd inning and give you 6 innings of 5-run ball. He's going to eat innings for you, but he gets hurt every year. This year he's been pretty consistent, but he did miss a start or 2 because of that forearm. He gets hurt every year, and it seems like every April it's just like, just throw April away.
He gets destroyed.
Yeah. Every April. So, Grayson, is Grayson in your rotation? Is Grayson a back end guy? And then what are you doing in free agency? Because there's not. I don't know what you have.
You still got to try to make Grayson a starter for as long as you possibly can.
I agree.
But I don't know how you keep him on. I don't know how you make sure you keep him on the mound. Like, it is always something with him. It's when he's 100%. It's like, yeah, this dude he's. Bradish, Grayson 1-2. It's like that wins you 101 games. Like, it's hard to. So I think they got to try that. But I just don't know what the answer is to make sure that this guy stays healthy and this guy stays available all for a full season. And if that's just never if that's never in the cards, then maybe I guess the bullpen, maybe they do need to try to get ahead of it, but I don't think you can. I think you gotta try to see. So I think Grayson, he can't factor him into the rotation though. He still can't. I don't know what to do about Grayson.
Well, and here's the thing. Grayson has had, he was never hurt prior to 2023. Prior to 2022. Then he has the lat strain that kept him out for 3 months. Like, literally, it was his last start before they called him up. Yeah. So he was out literally from June through I think it was exactly 3 months. I think it was like June 9th to like September 9th. Then he made like 3 or 4 starts out of AAA before the season ended. 2023, he was never hurt. People think that he was hurt that year. He was never hurt. He just wasn't very good in his first stint up here. And they optioned him, and then they brought him back, and he pitched to a sub-3 ERA in his last 13 starts in the second half. 2024, he made 20 starts. 16 of those starts, his ERA, I think, was 2.53. 4 of those starts, his ERA was 10. But overall, I mean, if 80% of the time you have a starting pitcher pitching to a 2.5 ERA, that's going to win you a lot of ball games. And then he got hurt before that game last August. Suarez stepped in beautifully for him. But we thought that he was going to be good to go. Like, they were trying to get him back by the end of the season. It just wasn't going to happen. They didn't have enough time. They shut him down. We thought he was going to be good to go. And then this stuff creeps up again this spring. He's had 3 now significant injuries, but they've been since 2022. If he's having this surgery and he's going to get himself right, then, Anthony Santander was injury prone at the beginning of his career. 2020 2019, 2020, 2021, finished the season on the IL. Then all of a sudden in 22, 23, 24, he played over 150 games because he changed his workout regimen and he got his body prepared to play a 162 game season. And he played 150 games all 3 of those years. I'm going to give Grayson Rodriguez a benefit of the doubt. I'm going to say he's going to make 25 starts for this ball club next year because he has to. He has to, and I'm not going to call this guy who was at one point the best pitching prospect in baseball and has ace type stuff and ace potential. And I'm not going to just say that he's a bust because he's been hurt a couple of times, or that he's injury prone because he's been hurt a couple of times. I mean, is Jordan Westburg injury prone because he got drilled on the hand last year and missed 7 weeks of the season, and then this year he jammed his finger twice and then twisted his ankle? Is he injury prone? I'm not ready to label Grayson that. Now, if he comes in next spring, and that's the thing, if they're going to give him a clean bill of health, why can't you count on him then? If they do this surgery with him that's supposed to get him right, and they give him a clean bill of health, he's ready for spring training, then why do we think that he is suddenly what the doctors are telling him that he can't do what they're saying? But to me, it's get the procedure done. I think he already had it done. I can't remember what it was.
I think so. Was it elbow or whatever? Is that what it was?
Yeah. It got the. Yeah. He's been pitching his entire career with it, which I think there's got to be pain there, which has to it has to impact the way that you throw. So if he gets these bone chips removed from his elbow, maybe he comes out and he's feeling the best he's ever felt, and then you have that guy pitching in your rotation. So look at the Orioles rotation for next year: Bradish, Rogers, Kramer. We're going to be there. I think Sagano's gone. As well as in your rotation, is Grayson there? Is Eflin back? Are you going out and trying to sign a Framber Valdez? Are you trying to make a trade to bring in somebody?
In terms of in-house guys, I think the biggest question, I guess, is Wells. What's the plan? What's the plan with Wells? So, but I mean, it's if you want to, we can assume health for. I hate saying that, but yes, Grayson when healthy. I mean, they've got Framber, but yes. You bring up Framber Valdez. That seems like the big ticket item, I guess. And so does that make it even tougher though to bring in Framber Valdez? The fact that he will be, if he's the number one pitcher on the market, that makes him a guy that the Dodgers will more than likely be in on. The Yankees will more than likely be in on. Does that make it that much harder to bring a Framber Valdez to Baltimore?
How much do you want Framber Valdez in Baltimore based on the rumblings that we've heard that he's not exactly the greatest teammate, that he intentionally crossed. He claims he didn't do it intentionally, but it looks like he intentionally crossed up his catcher after giving up a home run.
That was
and we heard that these aren't. This isn't the first time stuff like this has popped up with Framber Valdez as a teammate. So do you want that kind of guy coming into your clubhouse and disrupting your culture the second that things go wrong? You've already seen Dean Kramer yelling at Basayo when Kramer went out and sucked up the joint in his first start with Basayo. So, do you want to bring that into your staff? So do you go out and you make a trade with the Marlins or a trade with the Twins or a trade with the Reds or the Cardinals? I'm not the Reds. I meant the Cardinals. So bring in a Sonny Gray or a Sandy Alcantara or a Pablo Lopez or a Joe Ryan. Do you go out and trade for Mackenzie Gore? They're going to have a ton of options this year. And I think that that's going to be their main target is setting up this rotation, because I think they'll sign a couple of relievers, but I do believe that they're going to go in-house with their bullpen next year.
And try to find that next Ian Cano, that next Danny Coulombe, and that next Jacob Webb, I guess.
Well, Jacob Webb and Danny Coulombe all came from other organizations.
Right. Well, and I guess that's what I mean, too. Yeah, who's the guy that they're going to sign on March 30th that doesn't make the team for the Angels or whatever? And
right. They're gonna try to find a diamond in the rough off the scrap heap.
Rico Garcia seems, I guess, should we talk about the guys that we are unfortunately currently watching? I mean, Rico Garcia seems like he might be something.
Cade Stroud seems like he's definitely something. Dietrich Enns has pitched to a 3.2 ERA last night, notwithstanding. But Dietrich Enns, he's pitched well for the Orioles since coming over here.
Enns, I mean, if Enns is your eighth guy in the bullpen, I think that would be okay. I don't know. I think like Enns has those good moments where like he'll throw 3 no-hit innings out of the bullpen for some reason, and then he'll
strike out like 7.
Yeah,
you know,
and then he'll give up. Then he'll walk a guy and give up a home run in his next appearance. So yeah, Enns is interesting. I think you're right. They're gonna stick him around. Stroud has been very inspiring. Rico Garcia, Albert Suarez, right? Like, does that?
Well, that we don't know what's going on with him because he had, what was it, elbow discomfort, and they shut him down for the rest of the season. So we don't know what's going on with him, and that's the thing is, what did they do this past offseason? They signed a 41-year-old Charlie Morton, a 35-year-old Tomoyuki Sagano, a 35-year-old Andrew Kittredge, right? So, and the year before that, what did they do? They signed a 35-year-old Craig Kimbrell.
Yeah,
they have all been abject failures with these signings. Sagano came over here and he's pitched to a 4.5 ERA. He's had stretches where he's looked really good and stretches where he's looked absolutely awful. So I don't think that you can go out there and say, Albert Suarez, 37 years old, 2026, we have big plans for you to be part of our staff. I don't think that you can do that. So I think that they're going to go out. They're going to have to. I think Ryan Helsley is a free agent. He's been not great this year, but maybe you bring him in. You're going to have to make some kind of move to bring in a closer because you cannot count on Felix Bautista. Bautista's not going to be back.
And the one that I really like, and I think I brought him up to you, but earlier in the year, but Robert Suarez, and maybe this, if that's why I factor in Albert Suarez, because I feel like that'll be that's
sure.
That's the way you pitch it to him. It's like we get Albert Suarez and Robert Suarez in the same bullpen, but Robert Suarez he's at the top of my wish list in terms of these closers that again, I guess we assume Robert Suarez is not opted out but he's got to opt out, and I assume that he will opt out.
Sure.
But Robert Suarez is at the top of my list. And if he doesn't opt out, freaking trade for him. I mean, what are we doing? It's Robert Suarez. You need a closer for next year. We know how important a closer is. When you have the most dominant closer in baseball, the Orioles won 101 games. Like you need a closer. So, and Robert Suarez.
We saw what happened when you didn't have a good closer last year, and you've seen what happens when you don't have a good closer, when you don't have a bullpen this year. I also think that Sir Anthony Dominguez and Gregory Soto have a chance to be back next year. I think more likely Sir Anthony Dominguez, because they even made comments that they'd like to have him back after this season. So I think that you're going to see maybe a Sir Anthony Dominguez come back into the fold, especially with that newfound splitter that looks pretty darn nasty. You go out there. I don't care who they bring in to close, as long as it's somebody that can actually do the job. Is
that Iglesias from Atlanta? He'll be a free agent.
Raisel Iglesias from Atlanta. Like I said, Helsley's out there. You mentioned Suarez. Who was the guy from the Giants? Was his last name Colon? I can't remember.
Not Duvall, Camilo Duvall. No.
That's who I think it was. But I don't know. I don't know that he's had a great year. And who's the guy closing for?
Both the Rodgers are free agents. Tyler and Taylor Rogers.
Yeah, there's plenty of guys out there. So I think that they
don't necessarily have closer acumen, but yeah.
I know that they're going to have to sign a closer, and I know that they're going to.
Pagan is a free agent.
Yeah, Pagan. That's the guy who I was thinking of.
That was your thinking of. Okay.
That's the guy who I was thinking of was Pagan. So there's guys out there. They're going to sign one or two of those guys. They're probably going to bring in another middle inning reliever, and then I think you're going to see guys like Brandon Young and Cade Povich and Chase McDermott. They'll get stretched out in spring training to be able to withstand starter innings. But I think that they're going to spend a lot of time in the Orioles bullpen this year. Like a lot of failed starters become really legitimate lockdown relievers. So I think that that's where they're going to go internally, is some of these guys who we're talking about as starters. No, they're big league futures or as relievers in the Orioles bullpen. Then you look at what this team is going to do offensively, because we can agree they're 12-6 in September, and they've scored 3 1/3 runs per game. They've got to add a bat. They've absolutely got to add a bat. And the name that keeps coming to mind if he opts out is Cody Bellinger.
Yeah.
And I think because Cody Bellinger can play all 3 outfield positions, he can DH, he can play first base, and his swing is crafted for Oriole Park and Camden Yards. Like, his swing is tailor-made for that ballpark. I think Cody Bell, I wanted him this past offseason I would love to see Cody Bellinger in Baltimore. I think he makes his team. I don't think that he's the game. I know he's not the game changer that
he's not the, what was it?
that Kyle Tucker, Schwarber. What's that?
What year was the MVP or runner-up? MVP runner-up? What year was
2019. I think he won the MVP in 2019.
Yeah. I don't think he's got that in. Maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe he does come to Camden Yards and he does.
But that's the thing. He's a guy who's hitting 270 this year, 27 home runs. He's driving in runs. He's getting on base. If Cody Bellinger comes to Baltimore and hits 270 with 27 to 30 home runs, it makes your lineup that much better. And you don't have to just stick him as the DH. And he doesn't have to just play first base. He can play first. He can play right, left, center. Because here's the other thing. The Orioles don't necessarily have a center fielder next year.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, you've definitely talked me into Cody Bellinger over. I mean, I know you've been talking about him for a while. But yeah, you've definitely talked me into Cody Bellinger. Like that makes a lot of sense. Because they've been throwing Jeremiah Jackson out there in the outfield. And we saw again last night, it's still not working with Jeremiah Jackson in the outfield. So you need,
and he hasn't been terrible. He's held his own out there, but he's a career infielder.
Yes. And when the Orioles are a great defensive team, it's when we've seen them at their best. 2014, 2023, when they are one of the best defenses in baseball, that's when they look like one of the best teams in baseball. So I think those are correlated. Having a great defense. So I do think, and I guess we'll have a discussion about Jeremiah Jackson in a minute, but I think he is part of the team next year. He's earned that. He's definitely earned that. Is he the new Ramon Arias, where you can stick him at any infield position? Maybe not first base, but you can stick him anywhere in the infield, and in a pinch you can stick him in the corner outfield spot. But yes, and if you make Bellinger your center fielder, does that help the health of Colton Cowser when he's not, when you can put Cowser in a corner spot and then he doesn't need to run into the wall 8 times a game?
Well, and I thought that they should do this last offseason. And, I said it on the show a couple of times, but I didn't want to make a big deal out of it because I've already been blasted for my opinions on Colton Cowser. Cowser's hitting 190. He's hitting 199 with a 266 on base percentage and 82 OPS plus. For his career, he's got an even 100 OPS plus, which means he is a replacement level player, right? You look at what he's done in 334 plate appearances. He has 118 strikeouts. 306 at bats, 118 strikeouts. And if you look at his splits, the walks are way down. He has 22 walks.
Beavers is already at 22 walks, isn't he?
Yeah, Beavers, I think, it leads the majors in walks since he made his debut.
I saw somebody share, it might have been Jacob Calvin-Meyer shared a stat earlier this week, and it was like his walk rate is like 21%, which is higher than Juan Soto's right now.
Yeah, he's just. I thought that he was going to struggle more than Basayo coming up. No, Beavers looks like he's a legitimate dude for you. You look at what Cowser's done since the All-Star break.
Boy,
170 at bats. 73 strikeouts. 170 at bats and 73 strikeouts. His OPS plus is 64 in the second half. He's hitting 182 with a 598 OPS in the second half. The Orioles, they should have traded Cowser last offseason when you could have fooled somebody. Because he built a Rookie of the Year campaign out of playing really good defense, but 2 hot weeks in April and 3 hot weeks in July.
And that's what he built. 20 feet every time he hit a home run. Yeah. Yeah.
He built a Rookie of the Year runner-up campaign out of 5 solid offensive weeks and playing really good defense. I think he was 24 years old last year. Yeah, 24 years old last year. You could have traded him and gotten an absolute bag for him last offseason. Now he comes into this season. He gets hurt sliding in by the way, 1 for 11 with one of those 420-foot home runs that first series against the Blue Jays. Breaks his thumb sliding into first base like an idiot. Then he comes back. He hits a couple of home runs, goes into a deep, deep freeze at the plate where he's striking out 45% of the time at this point, runs into a wall, gets himself a concussion. He comes up in a big situation, and the thing about him is he'll hit a home run every 10 days. That's a big home run, and then people are like, "Moo!"
Big
He
spot
has
but yeah,
like somebody, because he's still under team control for another 5 years. Somebody will give you something for him, but I would not be shocked to see Colton Cowser get traded this offseason. Would not be shocked to see him get traded, but they should have traded him last offseason when his value was at the highest that it's ever going to be. I don't think you can count on a guy that strikes out that much and can't hit anything other than a fastball to be an everyday player for you next year, because he's not an everyday player. He's proven that. He's just not.
I think you're right. Or you are right. Like about how bad he's been. I don't know what the Orioles are willing to admit. Like when they're. I mean, they waited too long on Heston Kjerstad, and they kept wanting to try to make him work, and they couldn't keep him on the field. And when he was on the field, he couldn't play the field. He couldn't hit. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe will they learn their lesson from Heston Kjerstad, and will they deal Colton Cowser? And is it something? You're right. He's got so much control, and he's so young that there's definitely some value there. But it feels like if they do deal him, it would have to somehow it'd be like more of a package, and hopefully, but if maybe they can turn that into whoever the Corbin Burns is this year. They're able to deal Cowser and then one or two more of these prospects they just traded for 2 months ago. They're able to turn that. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be right about Colton Cowser. I don't have anything. I don't have anything against.
I really every time they put a microphone in front of him, he's great, and like he's a great dude, and it sucks that he strikes out 45% of the time. Like it's unbelievable how much he strikes out, and his average on the year. You just said it's dipping below the Mendoza line. It's unacceptable. It's only acceptable on a 70-win team. Like
I like the guy. I think he's a solid outfielder. He's got a great arm when he doesn't try to overthrow it. He's got a great arm, and there's a reason he was drafted 5th overall. There is nobody outside of the Colton Cowser family household that wants him to succeed more than I do. But I can want him to succeed that much, and I still have to sit here and say it's been 2.5 years that you've been a big league ball player for the Baltimore Orioles, and you haven't done squat but for 5 weeks in 2024. You just haven't been good enough. And I'm not about, making friends and saying nice things about players on the Orioles. I'm 41 years old. I have never seen a World Series. I need to see this team win. And right now, he doesn't give them the best chance to win. Do I think that he has the talent to get there? I absolutely do. But there's also something about being confident in your game. And you can't tell me that this man goes into a ball game confident right now. How could he? How could he? When he's got a 598 OPS since the All-Star break. Like, how could he be confident? So, look, the Orioles could get he also used to walk a ton, just like Adley, just like Jackson. He used to walk a ton. The Orioles could bring in the right hitting coach, work with him all off season, work with him in spring training, tell him stop trying to hit home runs and just focus on putting bat to ball. And maybe he comes out and hits 260 next year and the home runs are going to come. But right now, Colton Cowser has proven to me beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is not that dude. That he's just not that dude. And maybe he is one day because he's still only 25 years old. He'll be 26 on opening day next year. But right now, I just don't see it. Do have to get some bills paid here. Today's show has been brought to you by County Sports Zone. High school sports season is officially underway in Maryland and all year long. Find scores, schedules, and updates for every sport and every school all throughout the state at countysports.zone. Countysports.zone is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. Today's show also brought to you by Navy Football. 2025 Navy Football single game tickets are on sale now. Don't miss the exciting home game schedule this year. The games feature exciting American Athletic Conference matchups, including the Commander-in-Chief rival Air Force on Saturday, October 4th, coming up here just a couple of weeks away. Don't miss all the exciting action in historic Annapolis at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium, and get your tickets today at NavySports.com. Go Navy, beat Army.
You
mentioned Jeremiah Jackson.
So does he? I guess that was going to be my next question for you. Then, what's your? It sounds like you expect, or in your dream scenario, Cowser is dealt this offseason. So what does your outfield look like next year? Is it Bellinger, Beavers, and who?
Bellinger, Beavers, and who? That's a great question. And
Jeremiah Jackson, we get a whole offseason of Jeremiah Jackson learning the outfield, and maybe there is something there.
I think he's earned the opportunity to fight for that position in spring training. My
dream. Are they going to try to make it Tyler O'Neill? Like,
you can't. He's going to be here. What if he opts out? What if he's like, I don't like it here. Yeah. I'm opting out. Somebody give me $6 million on a make good deal. No,
maybe everyone told the Orioles. Somebody told all his teammates, hey, be mean to Tyler this final month. Just be really cold to him and make him not like it here.
Sweet muscles and t-shirts, meathead. Like, I don't know, man. So what?
Then he's going to sign with Toronto and he's going to hit 45 home runs.
Yeah, and then Santander will get released and come back here, and Toronto will just pay his salary, and then he'll hit third, batting .235.
Well,
no, so the Orioles outfield next year, in my opinion, it's obviously going to be Beavers out there, and I don't believe Cowser gets traded. I think he's going to be starting in left field for this club with Beavers in right field. Actually, I think Cowser will probably be starting in center, Beavers in left field, and then I think you'll see a combination of Jeremiah Jackson and Tyler O'Neill out in right field. Bradfield's going to get his opportunity at some point here, but he's got to prove he's had hamstring and quad issues each of the last 2 years. He's got to prove
because I do agree with that point you made about the strength and conditioning. Is that something that needs to be addressed as well this offseason? Like we look like with the Ravens, just to make that comparison with the Ravens, when they had Steve Saunders, and there's been horror stories about Steve Saunders when he was with the Ravens, but Lamar gets hurt, and again, maybe these were fluke plays, but Lamar gets hurt in the end of 21 and the end of 22, and then they get rid of Steve Saunders. And all of a sudden, Lamar hasn't. I'm knocking on every piece of wood around me. Lamar has been on the field ever since they signed him for the 2023 season. Mm-hmm. They seems like overall, outside of tomorrow night, they've been just a healthier team. Like they have not had these weird season-ending injuries or these weird, something in your back, something in your neck, something whatever it is. So the Ravens made a change with their strength and conditioning, and I think you can directly see the result of that. So do the Orioles need to take a look in the mirror and be like, Jordan Westburg, maybe they are fluke injuries, but Jordan Westburg's injured, Adley Rutschman's injured, and Grayson Rodriguez had a lot of issues. And then you go down the line and Vance Honeycutt got injured at some point this year, and that might have just been more he was batting below 200. So. Whatever it was, but Enrique Bradfield has been on the IL multiple times. Like it's
I think that they would be foolish to ignore it, right? Because you've seen a lot of these injuries creep up after Brian Ebel was fired, right? So they didn't bring Brian Ebel back into the organization. They get this new strength, this new training staff, and last year you saw Grayson go down, you saw Brash go down, you saw Means go down. This year, you see, you've seen the injuries to all the people that you mentioned, and some of these injuries, Jordan Westbrook's injuries, have all been just from playing hard. And same thing with Colton Cowser, But why is Tyler O'Neill? He was with the Red Sox for a season, and they made him change the way he worked out during the season, and he plays over 100 games and he hits over 30 home runs. The Orioles let Tyler O'Neill work out the way he wants to work out this year. He's played, 30 games? So it's something – they're going to look at everything. They're going to look at where can we improve, where can we get better, what do we need to do to keep these guys on the field? They've proven that when they're healthy, they're one of the best teams in baseball. They are absolutely one of the best teams in baseball when they're healthy. So you've got to stay healthy. I will tell you that I used to think, because in my entire life, I've never gotten hurt playing baseball. Never gotten hurt playing baseball, and I've played thousands of games in my life. I used to think, how are so many guys getting hurt?
I agree. I got hurt once. I collided with a second baseman trying to steal second, and I hurt my shoulder once. But that's the only injury. Yeah, I've never had like when I hear my teammates talk about I've got elbow issues. It's like, how do you not be smart? Like just be smart, right? Like,
right. But then I started playing tournament baseball down in Florida, where you play 9 games in 7 days for the Roy Hobbs World Series in October. If you go to Sunshine Classic in February or March, you play 6 games in 4 days. You play a game the first day you get there, game the last day you get there, the last day you're there, and then the 2 days in between, you're playing double headers. And I will tell you, your entire body feels heavier by the time you get to day 3 because it's a lot of baseball. These guys are playing baseball 162 games in 180 days, and that's before you think about getting to spring training and having your everyday workouts, then playing spring training games, and then possibly getting into the postseason. So I will say, you play so many games in baseball, and your body is constantly tired, and you're constantly getting worked on. And they have the best physical therapists and personal trainers that money has to offer. But it's a lot on your body. It is a lot on your body. When I see a 40-year-old still playing the game, I'm like, how are you doing that, man? How are you possibly doing that? So the wear and tear is just going to happen. Everybody's going to be dealing with something by the time you get to the dog days of summer during the season. Everybody's dealing with something. But there's a reason that certain teams can stay healthy and certain teams can't. And it's just, and unless you're the Dodgers, where despite having 20 guys on IL, because you spend $500 million a year, you can absorb those blows. The Orioles aren't the Dodgers. They don't have the money to absorb.
Some of the Dodgers are still not being able to absorb all the blows that they've taken because they've got.
But you know what though? Do you doubt that they're going back to the World Series? Who outside of the Phillies?
Like last week, they were still the favorites to win the World Series. I think the Phillies just overtook them for.
Outside of the Phillies, is there any other team that you think will overtake the Dodgers? And the Phillies always find a way to choke, right? So,
not this year. It's different this year. They're my pick.
No, I hope so. I'd like to see them win.
Although Zach Wheeler, it is weird. I don't know who it's going to be.
But so I think that the Orioles, a long, drawn out, overblown response to say, I think that they do need to address the strength and conditioning department for their ball club. But again, I think wholesale changes need to be made across the board. I think that you've got to completely clean house, because you're not going to get rid of the players. You're not tearing the roster down to the screws like you did back in 2018, 2019. So now do that with the coaching staff. Bring an entire new coaching staff that has experience, people that have been successful and have proven track records, top to bottom in this organization, and get things back on track. It can be done. Do they have a lot to do this offseason? They absolutely do. They probably have more to do this offseason than any other team in baseball. But they have the young core to make this stuff happen. And
hopefully they have been working hard behind the scenes. And there's a lot of stuff like this PBO promotion that Elias got. Hopefully there's way more of that and stuff we haven't seen, because they fired Heidel in May. Hopefully they've been working at and knowing that, hey, we probably need to fill a GM, we need to fill a manager, and this is going to entail new pitching coaches, new bench coaches, new everything. So hopefully they are. While they're behind, they are ahead of the curve in understanding that, we've got a lot of work to do. And this is going to be a extremely interesting offseason to watch for the Orioles. Every single piece of news, every single announcement that comes out, it's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. So
you look at the ownership group from top to bottom. And you don't have an ownership group of guys that like to lose. You just don't. You don't become a billionaire by losing. You have to have failures to build success out of your failures. You absolutely do. But you don't become that successful by not knowing how to win. And I look at Cal Ripken has 1% ownership in this ball club. I think that he's got the ear of Rubenstein and the ear of Elias, because he's Cal Ripken. He is probably, the second most important person in that ownership group behind David Rubenstein because he's Cal Ripken. If his name was Jake Smith, we wouldn't be talking about him. He has a lot of sway and a lot of pull with that organization. And I don't believe for a second that there guys like Cal Ripken and David Rubenstein and Michael, and is it Michael Arrighetti? Is that his name?
Yeah, Michael
Michael Arrighetti and Michael Bloomberg. And I don't know how much Bloomberg has to deal with it. I don't know how, he probably just sits in on a couple board meetings a year. But and a guy like Grant Hill, I don't believe that guys like this are just sitting there and watching this and have not been working night and day since May to figure out what they're going to do. There's no way they don't have a game plan. They're going into this offseason without a thorough plan to get right back, not just back to postseason contention, but get back to World Series contention. This team needs to be a World Series contender right now. And I think that they have every intention of being that next year. I'm expecting huge things this offseason. I'm expecting a huge free agent signing. I'm expecting a couple of big trades. I think that the Orioles are going to have maybe not the biggest offseason of any team in baseball, but right. I think that they're going to be a team that's talked about.
But when we're talking, maybe when we get to next August, next September, it's all of a sudden people are looking back and being like, maybe the Orioles did have the biggest offseason of anyone.
Yeah, I think that they're going to, because I think they have to. This fan base, like, I don't want to be so naive as to say, oh, well, you have to have your finger on the pulse of the fan base, and you have to understand that this fan base deserves better, and they're going to go out and do it for the fan base. They don't care about us, and like, I know that, and I don't care that they don't care about us. They care about making money. But I think that they understand that the best way to make money is to win baseball games and pack that stadium and sell tickets. And I think that I think that that's the plan.
And before they sign anybody, the thing I'm really excited about, I'm looking forward to this new jumbotron that we're going to get next season. I'm looking forward to the new screen in center field and the new sound system. I mean, I can't wait for I can't wait for that to not be the thing I'm most excited about. I can't wait for it to be, what does Cody Bellinger look like in an Orioles uniform? What is Robert Suarez walkout going to look like? That's what I'm hoping. Those are the top two things on my wish list that hopefully I can be daydreaming about for the next over the winter.
What I'm really excited about, though? The new print issue of Press Box, which is available now. On the cover, Bo Smolka profiles Ravens running back Derrick Henry and how his success after 30 has proved he's a unicorn at the position. Also inside, we profile college football players from the teams all across the state. You can find the new issue all throughout the region, including at 60 rural farm stores, and you can read it all at online.com. One of the things I really want to see from these stadium renovations is right center field where the bleachers are, right next to the scoreboard. Mm-hmm. If you're sitting in, section 90, right next to the scoreboard? Yeah, if you're sitting in section, or 96, I think it's section 96 or 98. If you're sitting in that section right next to the scoreboard, you can't see right field. You cannot see right field. You can see right center, and you can see the first half of right field, but you can't see down the line. And one of the things I like about PNC Park in Pittsburgh is that they have it's built very similar to the Camden Yards. That big right field scoreboard, but the seats in right field are angled so nobody's view is obstructed. And so I think that the Orioles need to do something with that. I think to ignore that would be a huge mistake. We haven't heard anything about it, but I can't imagine that they're not going to do something to address that. I also wonder if they're going to make an open concourse, because I think that I don't know how they would do it. They'd have to tear the entire top two decks down, and I don't know that they can do that.
I mean, maybe because since they're moving the press box it won't be up the left field. It'll be like the third base. I think to the third base area. Mm-hmm. So maybe, but is that happening this offseason that they're doing that new dugout or the home plate club? I think is what they're. Yeah,
I believe that's happening this offseason. There's a lot of stuff happening this offseason. Yeah. I think an open the thing I'd be most excited about is the open concourse,
that would be way too tough for this offseason at least. Yeah. At least in an offseason where you're also changing the center field and the sound system and everything, and the press box. But maybe not. Yeah, who knows?
But I
haven't heard anything about
open concourse and
I'm
getting rid of the
favorite.
obstructive view in right field.
Open concourse would be great.
So, do want to talk a little bit about the Ravens here before we get out of here today. Ravens, they're averaging 41 points a game, which is awesome. Derrick Henry could not get anything going last week, and I think a lot of that has to do with, Fall lately hasn't been looking great on that offensive line. They have no Pat Ricard, and the Cleveland Browns defense is really, really good.
Yeah.
The Ravens rushed for 45 yards last week, and it was the least amount of rushing yards they've had since Lamar Jackson has been a Baltimore Raven. So it's I expect them to get back on track running the ball. I've been listening to people on the radio saying that they think the Ravens will cover the spread of being 4.5-point favorites. And because of that, these are people that are smarter than me. I took them in our weekly picks here. By the way, 2-1 yesterday. That's
well done.
That's improvement for
me. Yeah, you were much better last weekend as well. See, I told you.
Yeah, man. I had two correct predictions the first 2 weeks of this, and it was like
14 maybe. It was impressive, honestly. It was honestly impressive to go that.
I got a lot of the winners correct, but nobody was covering, and I was just getting so mad about this. I actually was texting Griffin like, dude, this is like awful. This is like absolutely awful. But
this is the PCR picks contest for anyone that
but it's a lot of fun. I was super excited to do it again this year, and then after 2 weeks, I was like, why did I do this? But the punishment I don't think is that bad this year.
I know that Glenn quite as bad. We've been bad at enforcing our punishments the last year and a half. So that's why I think
the punishment this year is what is it? You have to sit at McDonald's for 24 hours.
Correct, and I think we're gonna come up with. I'm sure there's gonna be something else where somebody will stop by and torment you. I'm sure.
But can you eat your way out of hours?
I'm not sure. I think that's the plan, but we haven't decided. Like maybe we will just make it. Hey, nothing you can do about it. You're locked in McDonald's for 24 hours.
Who has time to sit in McDonald's for 24 hours? I think you have to be able to eat your way out of it. I'll tell you, I can put away some McDonald's if I have to. So
maybe it'll be we bring something to you and you're allowed to eat your way out as on top of X amount of cheeseburgers or nuggets or whatever.
Yeah, I if I have to eat my way out of McDonald's, I think I could do that. But anyway, I digress. Look, the Lions put up 52 points last week. It was against the Chicago Bears, and they lost the first game. Who did they play week 1? Who the Lions?
Green Bay.
They put and Green Bay looks.
Green Bay might be the best team ever.
Yeah, they look legitimate. Like their defense looks nasty. Jordan Love's playing at a high level. They look really freaking good. So it's a division opponent, right? So you're probably gonna split with them anyway. So I look at the Lions, and they've got a two-headed monster at running back. They've got legitimate wide receivers. I don't think their defense is incredible, but they've got Aiden Hutchinson, who is going to give them trouble all game long. I've got the Ravens winning because I don't think that there's a defense that can really stop their offense from scoring 30 points a game. And so I look at that. If they don't turn the ball over, I think the Ravens win.
I got the sense they're gonna be up in the fourth quarter, and it's gonna come down to don't make a mistake like we saw in Buffalo, which is. And again, even that is fluky. It's like Derrick Henry, who never fumbles. Of course he's the guy that fumbles in Bill's territory, and gives them great field position and a chance to and evidently tie it and go win it. And so I think you're right. I picked the Ravens as well for the show. I'm not quite as confident in laying the 4.5 as I was, I think, 3 days ago. Now that Nnamdi Madubuike is not playing, Kyle Van Noy's not playing. Although we kind of assumed Kyle Van Noy wasn't going to be available. The Nnamdi Madubuike one is a little surprising. And
that came out of nowhere.
That one definitely worries me. And the fact that Harbaugh talked to the media yesterday and he gave his typical Harbaugh answer, like, we're not really sure, Well, I guess it wasn't quite his typical Harbaugh answer because he kind of revealed, like, we don't know really what's going on. They're running some tests on him, and it's
right.
It's apparently a neck thing for Nnamdi Madubuike. So that is very that one worries me. And as you mentioned, the rushing attack of Detroit can be very, very good at times. So it's gonna be a big night for Travis Jones and I guess the rookie Aeneas Peebles to try and step up. And as well as Mike Green. We're going to see a lot of Mike Green with no Van Noy. So it's I'm suddenly worried about the defense again. But but yeah, as you said, when you got Lamar Jackson, so there's no reason for me to think that they can't put up 41 points again.
Well, right, and that's the thing. Like, and then you look at, Wiggins is dealing with leg issue, I think it is, and Humphrey's not 100%.
Wiggins practiced fully, so I think he's a full go for tomorrow night. Yeah. It's just, I think it's weird. It's just a weird one. It's Ricard, it's likely Van Noy and Matabike. It's like those are not nobodies. Those are not nobodies.
Exactly, and so like they're gonna have to probably go punch for punch with the Lions, and I would love to see Keaton Mitchell active tomorrow because I think that he's a great change of pace back for them. I know that he's terrible in pass pro. I get that, but there's got to be a way to get him active and give him 8 touches in a game and let him get some big chunk yards for you, because he proved it when he was healthy 2 years ago. He was averaging 8 yards a carry, and then in the preseason he touched the ball 6 times and had 65 yards and a touchdown. So I want to see Mitchell active and get an opportunity to get the ball in his hands a little bit. I do expect the Ravens to win the game. Not as confident as a 4.5 point spread as I was the other day. Now, again, with the injuries to the defense, but I'm going to say Ravens win this game 37-34. I think it's a Tyler Loop field goal that wins it for them.
I think I'm right along those same lines. I was thinking something like, it comes down to a field goal, and it could be a big Tyler Loop moment. I'm stuck with 38-35 is what I'm thinking for some reason. But it does seem like this is a big heavyweight matchup, and it's going to just be getting some heart pounding Ravens football. I guess we don't get too many easy ones. It feels like anymore.
You got the Chiefs right after that.
Right. And that's what it's going to be. It's going to be they either win by 3 at the very end, or it's like a walk-off punt return like the Tylan Wallace against the Rams.
It's going to be something.
Yeah, or they're going to win 38-6 like they did last time Detroit came to Baltimore.
I think that this team is done blowing big fourth quarter leads. I think that they thought that they dominated the Bills in the regular season last year. Dominated the Bills in every category except turnovers and penalties in the postseason and lost that game. And I think that they got to that fourth quarter leading by as much as they were, and they were like, we're better than them. We're just way better than them, and we got this. And I think that they got punched in the mouth, and they remembered, oh, yeah, we got to close. We got to close these games out. And you saw as evidence last week, they were up big on the Browns in the fourth quarter, and Lamar Jackson still throwing passes down the field trying to score touchdowns.
They're going to have to take a page out of the Kurt Signetti book that Indiana put on display last night. One of the picks I got wrong, trying to go against Indiana. And I think they just got a foot on the gas the whole time, like Indiana, putting 63 points up. Ridiculous against Illinois last night.
You know what I just realized? I took Illinois because I took Illinois because I thought their defense was really good, and I just realized I was thinking of Iowa. I was thinking of Iowa's defense, and
there's too many teams that start with the letter I in the Big Ten
that are ranked, that are ranked, and so I was thinking Iowa, and that's why I took Illinois, and then I literally just realized right now, dude, you were thinking Iowa, not Illinois. I don't know anything about Illinois football. I know nothing.
Altmaier, who's good. They had that good receiver last year. They beat Maryland last year. That's what I remember.
Mm-hmm. Oh, who didn't beat Maryland last year?
Yeah, right. True. No, I picked against. It was more so just I wanted to pick against Indiana because I just felt like Indiana is going to get hit with regression hard. There's no way they're going to be as good as they were last year. They might be just as good. It's impressive.
63 points against the number 9 team in the country. That's not no small potatoes. So today's show also brought to you by Game Day Men's Health. If you're feeling sluggish, unfocused, or not like yourself, it could be low testosterone. At Game Day Men's Health, they specialize in testosterone replacement therapy to help men boost energy, improve mood, and regain confidence. Our treatments, including testosterone cypionate, are safe, natural, and tailored to fit your lifestyle with weekly injections or pellet therapy. There's multiple locations you can call Game Day Men's Health. You can reach out to them at Owings Mills at 443-264-4454, Columbia at 443-266-3505, or Frederick at 240-931-3717, or visit GameDayMen'sHealth.com and ask them about a complimentary testosterone test. Griffin, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Anything else you want to get into before we get out of here?
Since Jaden Daniels isn't playing today, that really hurts me. Would you go Drake May or Daniel Jones?
Daniel Jones. I think he's playing inspired football right now.
I think you might be right. The problem is I got to drop somebody to pick up Daniel Jones. So
I picked up Jake Browning. I picked up Browning because I have Jaden Daniels in 2 of my 3 leagues. So I picked up Browning to because I mean he's got Higgins and he's got Jamar Chase, and I think that they're going to have to throw the football to keep pace in every game that Burrow's out. So, what can we plug for you? Got anything going on coming up?
I guess not. Glenn Clark Radio, of course. We talked about that. Project Game Day post-game show tomorrow. And then I guess, I don't know, just follow me on Twitter and Instagram, figure out what I'm doing next. Trying to, still doing play-by-play broadcasting wherever anybody will let me talk into a microphone and talk about their sports team,
Awesome.
So Griffin_Bass on Twitter, I believe. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Griffin, you're the man. Appreciate you. Go enjoy your Sunday of football, and we will be talking soon, okay?
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. And as for our listeners, viewers, fans, and sponsors, without you, we 100% do not have a show. Thank you to all of our sponsors and all of our fans for tuning in every single week. Until next week, see ya.